I'm in the famous Burnham Woods, near the town of Dunkeld, and I'm off to see some Pictish stones. But passing through Burnham, I was reminded of an often forgotten tale. Hi, this is the Burnham Oak. It's been here for several hundred years. But one day, in the 1860s, this was a place where a riotous assembly got fired up and got ready to go and start rioting on Dunkeld Bridge. I'll tell you more about it later. See ya! Here I am! Anyway, great to see you. We're in Burnham Woods, just outside Dunkeld, and we're about to move over and have a look at the bridge where the riots took place. So we'll catch up in a while. Dunkeld Bridge was completed in 1809 and it was paid for by the Duke of Atholl, who charged a toll or a fee for crossing the bridge. Quite unpopular with the locals. A meeting was called at the Burnham Oak and the mood turned angry. The mob moved on to the bridge and captured the tollkeeper and locked him in the lodge, while the gates were thrown into the River Tay. The mob became riotous and trashed Dunkeld. Then they marched back and forth across the bridge in defiance of the Duke of Atholl. The Duke, being used to getting his own way, called in the army. The Black Watch Regiment were called, and yet they stood by and did nothing. The protesters won the day, and the Duke of Atholl handed over ownership of the bridge to the newly formed Perth and Kinross District Council, and the tolls were removed. Apparently, bitterness towards the Duke carried on, and about a year later, one of his pet projects called Ossian's Cave at the Hermitage was blown up by persons unknown. Dunkeld itself grew up around a Pictish monastery established in the 7th century AD. This became a very important place over time. Hi, I'm standing on the banks of the River Tay, which is an ancient Christian site dating back to around about 650 AD, when a Pictish monastery was established here. The cathedral itself is where the Pictish stones are housed, so that's where we're off to next. But we might tell you a little bit about something else on the way. This cathedral was established in around about 1250. Probably took about 150 years to build. And during the Reformation, John Knox and his pals burnt it down. And that's why we have a ruin to the left of us here. And so we come to the Pictish stones, which is why we're here in the first place. Unfortunately, we can't get to see one of the stones due to the restoration work happening in the cathedral. This is a very late Pictish stone with no obvious Pictish symbols. It was apparently used as a gatepost in the church for many years and has now been brought inside to save it. The front of the stone is very defaced and we can make out the original cross, and apparently there were 3 horsemen on it, but I can't see a trace of them. It's a real shame, the stone's in a bit of a mess. On the side of the stone there's a horseman, and below there's a hooded figure, perhaps with a crozier in his hand. Very hard to tell. The back of the stone appears to be quite gruesome. Apparently there are over 22 severed heads in neat rows right at the top, with some kind of circular device to the left of them. And below the severed heads we have a rather different picture. There's 12 characters and they're believed to be the 12 apostles. Very interesting stone, the Apostle Stone, Dunkeld Cathedral. See you later. So here we have probably a late 8th, early 9th century Pictish stone. It's very unusual in Pictland, this design, and it resembles some Irish stones that I think I've seen in the past, but maybe you can inform me on that. Something else about this stone, that the cross, I think it looks upside down. I think the shaft should be down here, and that this should be the top, because it doesn't, its proportions don't look right to me. Now please message me if you know anything about this, I'd love to know, but that's my theory, that the stone's upside down. Anyway, it's a beautiful thing, and I'm glad it's been preserved in here. Apparently it was used as a gravestone in about the 1760s. This is a Wolf of Badenoch. He was the son of the king, and he was a bit of a lad. He had 13 children to his lover, Marietta de Atha. They lived on an island up near Elgin. And the king's brother, the wolf, fell out with the church and burnt down Elgin Cathedral just because he was so angry with it. Months later, the king called him into his presence and made him pay penance wearing sackcloth and ashes. But it didn't really put the guy off. He was a kind of irrepressible character of those years. So here he is in his glory, the Wolf of Badenoch, and he's got a wee dog at his feet. And here's the wee dog. Hardly Greyfriars Bobby right enough. Now we must remember that Travels in Pictland isn't a tourist guide, it's much more about history and the history of early Scotland. But we must have a wee look around Dunkeld, and I'll give you a little peek before we go. It's a beautiful little town and you should come and see it if you can. This was once the regimental headquarters of the Scottish Horse Regiment, formed in South Africa by the Duke of Atholl in 1900 during the Boer War. Neil Gray Cameron is also the man who found the very early Pictish stone with the 4 heads on it that is now in Perth Museum, that we're going to see, talk about and hear the whole story about soon on Travels in Pictland. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this programme. Please subscribe, please hit like, and also comment on anything that you feel like to do with the programme. And we'll see you later.